Live.
All right. Don't say anything you don't want on the internet.
All right.
You have to have your coffee cup to start.
No, man.
Yeah,
And this is actual size, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, I like the reflection. That's pretty cool. Mine
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So we got a action-packed agenda, and we'll go through things as best we can. Rob, do you want to kick it off?
No, go ahead. You
Okay.
got the ball.
Cool. So this morning at the weekly Kubernetes community meeting, we talked about sort of our desire to have a much wider engagement for this SIG. We've had fluctuating membership, but what we want to do is create this as a go-to SIG. And the fact that you guys are here is fantastic because we really want to have operator voices in the room through the entire life cycle of Kubernetes. And right now, I feel like the developer voices sometimes overwhelm us, and we want to make sure that we're getting really good information back so it informs upstream projects. So the more real-world info, the better. So another thing we announced was that we want to piggyback on some event this year. We've talked about some, and we'll go into this in more detail later, but essentially we want to get all the operators in a room and have a summit, much like the Kubernetes Dev Summit that happened during the last KubeCon. So have some real-world presentations and maybe share some ideas and get everybody aligned around some of the changes that are going to be coming with 1.6, 1.7, and so forth, and go from there. So yeah, that was exciting.
We need to start an agenda for that, is what I'm thinking.
Agreed.
I'll start it. I'll throw a new document together.
Okay. I'm going to put up Summit 2017, create agenda. Got it. All right. So standing issues. I'm not sure what you want to cover with these two things, but.
So the idea was if somebody had a hot bug that they had been running into.
Jeremy, Stephen?
Nothing I can think of. We just upgraded to 1.5.1. The only bug that doesn't really affect us, but that I'm tracking is the EBS attaching, detaching stuff. I would love to use that stuff. That just doesn't seem like it's ready. So I'm stuck kind of just doing ephemeral type data, backups, test 3, and stuff like that. But it would be really cool to use those EBS volumes.
Okay. If you have the issue handy for that, I would love to have you paste that in as a link.
Okay, yeah, let me see if I can find it.
That'd be great. What about you, Stephen? Anything popped up in your world any issues that you think the community would want to know about?
Not for this meeting.
Okay.
I'll go back and collect some data.
Great.
I have one that we've been tracking a little bit. So we've been looking at using the bootstrap flag for as an upgrade pattern of kubelet. But I don't think, as far as I can tell, it's not ready for prime time, or it didn't get implemented, and so we have not chosen that path in looking at it. And I was wondering if anybody else had played with kubelet upgrade patterns.
Yeah.
Right. It's a particularly thorny issue for self-hosted because you have to replace the kubelet in flight. We've been just looking at basically systemd, using systemd to do a swap or a container, some type of external orchestration to control the swap.
Yeah, I know some really big shops. The Netscape Foundation, their stuff is set up that way. It seems like a reasonable pattern.
Which way?
The systemd drop-in swap of the binary.
Okay. Yeah, we've been talking about it a bit, and I was excited to use because that flag was supposed to use a lock file to establish that you could roll forward or roll backwards, and then but we couldn't. We tried. We looked at it. We didn't see the docs for it. So if you're trying to do it, I'd love to know somebody who's doing it.
Okay.
All right.
have not seen it myself, so
Yeah.
I'll keep an ear out for that one.
Okay.
All right. So moving along. So next bullet item is talking about SEO for issues and discussions. And one of the things that we want as a goal for 2017 is to have better SEO on cluster operator issues, generally speaking. So do we want to have a specific channel for those types of discussions? Do we want to do something on Stack Overflow, or what is the...
What's a SEO mean? Sorry.
Search engine optimization. So basically, when
Oh,
you
okay,
search, I want to be able to search for failed etcd cluster upgrade and have like our stuff come up first, or something like that. Because right now I'm searching for any operator type information. It's just agony.
Mm-hmm.
So any stuff there is immediately welcome. Rob, what do you think? I mean, so obviously there's a lot of weight already in place on the existing documentation because of Google is well positioned for that. I mean, obviously. So how do we mimic some of that that gravitas for our own stuff?
Some of it is we're going to be just doing a regular report out. Right? And that, doing some regular. So what I would suggest we do is start doing a quarterly or monthly report. All right, we're meeting every week, so it's useful to just take the last 10 minutes of a month, or if you and I can do this as part of our wrap ups. Monthly report for the SIG, report it, promote it on the community channels, and then blog or post it. Is really the way to do that. And ironically, one of the things that we can actually do is look at stickers or something like that. And the other thing to do is if we actually can do this traveling meetup, Klopp's beers or something like that. Might be.
Yeah, this kind of ties into what I was wanted to talk to you guys about, or just ask about, which is the Slack channels. Because I find like that's kind of my number one resource as far as like keeping in touch with what's going on. I hang out in the SIG AWS all the time, and that's a great spot for seeing what the current operating issues are and like what the possible fixes are and stuff like that. And I would love to see kind of an expansion on that beyond SIG AWS. I was thinking just recently, I just stood up a bunch of monitoring, and I was thinking it would be awesome to have like a SIG monitoring, because there isn't really a channel where you can go to get support on Heapster or on any of these like Influx or actually Influx has their own Slack, but it's not Kubernetes specific. Having a Slack channel where people can just kind of pop in and be like, hey, what's up with Heapster or something is, I think, pretty valuable. Because I know those guys are working hard, but there's nowhere to go interface with them. There's nowhere to ask questions. And like you said, there's no Googling you can really do about that stuff. So.
Yeah, that's a fantastic thing. So we have SIG Cluster Ops Slack channel on the Kubernetes Slack. But I dare say that nobody would probably go there first to the stuff, because they don't know that the people there. And there's a huge following on the channel, but it doesn't get the kind of traction that.
Well, we're not hanging out there to solve people's problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time, just doing this ops stuff, like the reason I think I'm so into the Slack is like there's a lot of stuff where I'm like waiting for something to happen or whatever. I've got a few minutes, and so I don't mind popping into a channel and I'll just like help people randomly if I see somebody asking a question or whatnot.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Would it be reasonable to have a Slack bot that basically scrubbed for like a hashtag cluster ops and then reposted in the cluster ops channel? So I mean, I'm not don't have the time to go hack Slack interfaces. But
Yeah.
I know it's it shouldn't be that hard to do. Tempted to.
I think a lot of so far it feels like a lot of the operators are tending to flock to the channels that are related to the tool that brings up Kube.
Yeah.
And it's interesting for me because I'm actually using CoreOS, and so the SIG AWS is like heavy on the KOps stuff, and they kind of tend to turn away CoreOS people, but like I'll help CoreOS people if I see them in there. Maybe SIG Ops could be where something like that could be supported. I don't know. Like maybe we could create relate it to the tool somehow, or have it come up in the search somehow.
So this is one of the things that to me is a signal to noise problem, because I would really like for us to be talking about people with running clusters, not right. There's a lot of times these channels turn into I'm trying to start this on that, and I couldn't figure out how to do it, and you end up without the more, and it's a two-edged sword. So you end up not having the person who's saying, all right, I'm trying to sustain a etcd cluster and I keep having a node failure. What how do I work with that? At the same time, somebody showing up with that type of a problem in this channel is really hard to support somebody in Slack because their environment is so variant.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that the breadth and depth of ops problems is so massive. I mean, in a sense, it's like we're probably not that dissimilar from the entire development realm. You know what I mean? Like whatever there is happening on the development realm is probably happening in the ops realm, but it's scattershot across all these different places. That's why I wish that there was. I don't know.
Jeremy, you've got a ton of background noise, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a pretty big problem, actually.
Yeah, it is, and this is one of the things that I think is really frustrating to the community in general. It's and they end up targeting down into these quick starts. One of my concerns is that the quick starts end up not being operational platforms. I don't know what to do except ultimately just build enough following that we have operators hanging out on Twitter, on Slack that can provide it, or have people know to come to the Thursday meeting and review it.
Maybe what we need to do is be more aggressive about calling for participation in the Thursday meeting. The community meeting, like.
Right.
So we should volunteer for the hosting and do whatever we can.
That's why, and I'll see if there's an easy way to do the Slack bot, just to scrub if somebody does cluster ops or something like that as a flag, repost it. Be useful, but it's just going to take us having people who have real things. So one of the things that would be interesting is SIG scale should have some real overlap in this case.
Yeah.
And that's going to drag into my next topic.
Okay. Yes. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I attended the SIG on-prem, or at least half of the SIG on-prem. Was anybody else there for that? I mean, it was inaugural. There was sort of a traditional SIG kickoff meeting. Yeah, and we got a shout out for the docs and the reference architecture stuff and things like that. I'd love to see ways that we can consolidate this stuff, because I do feel like we have a lot of SIG sprawl in the issues that we want to try and help people with or have discussed. Are all, I mean, they're by definition all over all the other SIGs. Everybody cares about a working cluster.
Yeah, you'd think that we would be turning people away at the door, because it's like the fire marshal should shut us down for how many people should be here. But it doesn't seem to happen, which is interesting.
I mean, I think you hit it right on the head when, it really is, there are so many different ways to do it, and it is kind of random. Yeah, but like you're probably not going to find a way to support or answer someone's question unless it's in relation to a tool that someone's using, right? Like I wouldn't be able to help people with on-prem, but I could definitely help with AWS. It's like the AWS is the specialty, sort of.
Well, but and this is where it gets weird because if AWS is mostly COPS, then it's really a COPS. People on COPS can help people on COPS. People on cargo can help people on cargo. Because if you, and this is what we saw with OpenStack, if you don't know how somebody installed, you have so little information about their cluster that you can't even start with all right, first I need to know your operating system and your cloud and your provider, and then I need to know it's a mess.
Right. Yeah, and it breaks the not having to ask or being able to ask a question and then get a response a few hours later.
Yeah.
The goal with the reference architectures was that all of these install approaches are really only following like 2 or 3 different patterns. As far as we can tell, 3 different patterns. And so we could effectively narrow that down, but yes, it's a signal noise problem because a lot of people are just my VPC is incorrectly set up and.
Yeah, I mean, I know that when we've talked to a lot of our clients, the range of build stuff is just all over the map. Like we've been asked to do gap analysis on a cluster, and I had to go to the client and say, your cluster, there's no reason to even bother doing that because your cluster is completely not usable. It's like just. Yeah. Where do you start? It's just so hard, and it's sort of a race to the bottom in terms of like there isn't one way to build a cluster, so I don't know what to do about that. That's a big problem.
But my hope had been that we would start identifying some common patterns, and then we could document around that. I think we're there. We just have to. It's just going to take time to write it down.
Yeah. All right. So I like your stickers idea and shirts or whatever else we need to do. Swag. I want to have operator swag because that'll just be freaking cool.
So it's easy to crowdsource something like that and get a pattern designed. I mean, I can talk to Sarah to see if they have some official something or other, but
yeah.
The way that would work is that you have to start with some design parameters. Like we want to have the Kubernetes logo.
Yep.
Plus something, right?
Also for SEO, like would it help to do some kind of a Stack Overflow type? You know how people do that? Basically, they'll create a Stack Overflow special group or something.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. If there's some place people can go specifically to find this stuff, that would be helpful.
And then, maybe give people stickers when they answer Stack Overflow questions or something.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'd love to gamify or incentivize people to be in the participation. So.
I like these ideas.
Also, if we had a guide for how to ask a question, that might help, or that might help drill down into like, what tool are you using? If we had a standard set of questions so that somebody could post a Stack Overflow with all the necessary information right out of the gates, like then we'll be able to answer effectively.
Yeah, that's great, actually.
So one of the things that the community is struggling with from the big meetings is these standard forms and collecting data and dealing with the 9,000 issues and features and stuff like that. This is actually this might be an interesting. So what I would suggest we do is we bring this back to the community meeting.
Okay. So how would we summarize what we'd actually be bringing back? Because I can go into the community meeting doc and add it.
So what we're trying to do is to figure out how to consolidate operational concerns across all the SIGs.
Okay.
And then preserve the preserve the knowledge.
You know,
I actually think with SEO is a key thing. So it's not just
right.
that we want to write something down. We actually want it to have. This is why Stack Overflow got me thinking in a different path, which I really like.
Yeah. So if we consolidate all of the operational concerns from all the SIGs, if we have everybody on Ops Watch, and then we can put it somewhere where people can search it and find it. Like Stack Overflow, that'd be great. That would be truly, truly good. I like it. Cool. Okay. Next item. Do you want to move on to OpenShift review?
I would like just a small item. I started brainstorming some ideas for stickers, and so think about it. We'll bring it up next week. But I was thinking like playing on Cyclops as a single eye type thing. Mm. The one I like right now better is turning Kubernetes logos into gears and showing like gears turning as cluster ops. Same thing. All right, cool. That's incremental.
Awesome. All right, so OpenShift review, I think that's yours, Rob.
Oh, I thought we had somebody from OpenShift who was going to do the review. This is our VMware.
Oh yeah. Okay, so we can actually table that for now because that was that was not. Let's see, scrub bug stad cluster ops tag.
Darwal was the person who was going to do that.
Yeah, Darwal, that's right.
I did not hear back from that. I think there's actually we're still going through some churn. I haven't pushed it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I did ask. I just didn't hear back.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. So let's see. I think that we need to have the ability we'll have to have proofs on the repo to be able to add the tag. So
yeah,
need response.
And then that group walked into a huge firestorm with this PM group thing. So
yeah, that was a mess. Okay, so etcd2 to etcd3. As a public service to the operator community, I have been going through what does it take to take a in-flight cluster from etcd2.3.7 to etcd3.0.15. And what I found was that the CoreOS documentation on this super sucks because it makes a lot of assumptions.
Oh well.
But that's okay because I want to help out, and I understand why those assumptions were made. Jorge.
Now, when you say upgrade, do you mean in-place upgrade or do you mean like export and import?
I mean in-place upgrade.
Okay.
Basically no downtime and maintaining the entire cluster state.
Okay, because we were kind of looking at that and we were like, we're just going to make people export and import. I think so. We jumped to the same conclusion, I think.
The good news is it's totally doable. And I will walk people through how to do that right now if you want, or we can save it for another demo another day, whatever people want. Any clamoring to
I'd be interested.
I'm looking at the Google Doc. Yeah, I'm interested in this for sure.
All right, okay. So let me share my screen here. Let's see. All right, so the trick is, so if you go to the releases page, and you look for releases of etcd3, it has a link there that basically automatically dumps everything into a directory in temp. And it's called, where is it? Oh, I rebooted. Hang on here. Let's see. Oh, what? It's gone.
I love
Well, all right.
Although this is like the anti-counter demo, right?
Yeah.
I definitely provoked the demo gods by even bringing this up. At any rate, so the if you go to the documentation, which I'll post a link on the chat here, which is this. Where is chat?
This is his first example of what a broken demo or a broken upgrade looks like. Oh,
Yeah. Okay, where's chat? I'm trying to find chat here, and it's not coming up for whatever reason. I'm gonna post it in Slack.
Chat's hard when you're in the demo window.
Oh, that's what's going on. Okay. So I'm posting it in Slack. There we are. So that is the procedure, and then you're going to need the releases, which has the other part of that. Let's see, 3 release. And I actually have a purpose for going through this, because this release link has the instructions in it. And that is now in Slack. Okay, so between these two things, you got it made. So the first thing you want to do is actually back up your data on your cluster. I'm not going to go through it now, but essentially there's documentation about backing up that CD. You just run that CD backup command, and it will put the data into another directory for you. And then if you look at the releases, there's this download under version 3.0.1.5, and it runs these commands to put things in /temp, which I'm going to run now.
Oh, you're right off the edge of my screen.
Okay. Can you see okay, or do I need to make that bigger?
No, I had to the very bottom of your screen was hidden by the Zoom bar. I see it now.
All right. Somebody's typing very loudly. I'm not sure.
Oh, sorry, that's me. My bad.
Okay. All right. So now in temp, there's this test.cd directory. So essentially, what you need to do is you have to go into the test.cd directory, and it downloaded these binaries. And so because CoreOS, you've got all the read-only file systems, in order to actually use these, you have to move them into opt-bin. And what I did was I just, you have to make your opt-bin, because by default it's not there. But once you have that, then you're good. So then what you need to do is you have to create a new system file for that, and that lives in /etc system system d/system. And what I did was I copied the old etcd one over to /etcd3.service, and what you have to do is you have to go and also copy the config environment variables that live in a different file and I'm not sure the directory right now. I'd have to look it up again. But essentially, if you look at the startup and the cloud config, you can see where it gets these. But essentially, it's just the startup environment variables for the etcd cluster. So you add the environment variables, you copy the stuff over, you change the exec start directory so that it's pulling up from opt-bin, and then you do systemctl disable etcd2, you enable etcd3, and it'll create the symlink to the right place. So when it starts, it'll be set for boot. And then basically at this point, you have to do this on each node. And once all 3 nodes are configured properly, then you can actually export the version of etcd-ctl you're using to use version 3, which you do with this environment variable. So let's see, etcd-ctl underscore API equals 3, and then slash. The other thing you have to reference is the correct version of your etcd-ctl. And then member list. Boom. So my Gates cluster is using etcd3 with in-place upgrade. No loss of any state or whatnot. So.
Do you have to? Well, you would have to cycle kube somehow. I mean, I figured that etcd2 versus etcd3 was so different that Kubernetes would need a flag or something to know to use etcd3.
It is downward compatible, so it's assuming that it's probably still referencing the version 2 API endpoints, which is okay. Now I would have to actually go through and upgrade that reference. But for right now, it's backward compatible, so it's working just fine as is. So next time, if I upgrade to 1.6, then I can leverage the version 3 endpoints.
I'm curious, would you have to change the data for Kubernetes to work, or have you tried that transition before?
Not yet. I'm wondering that's the next thing, I think.
Okay.
If you're in 1.5, I thought it would automatically map it.
I don't know. How do you test what endpoints, or if it's using version 3 endpoints?
I don't know. You'd have to be in the Kubernetes configuration, wouldn't it? Although I don't think it's a setting. It's just
that's what I was kind of wondering. Yeah, I have no idea. Something to learn. But at any rate, I did prove. I did say I was going to do it, and I did it. I did prove it as possible. So the documentation, just as you read it, you'll see that it just says drop the binary, and it doesn't talk at all about creating a new systemd unit and disabling the old one and then doing the new. So that's the sort of the meat, and also collating the environment variables from one file and combining them with the systemd unit file for etcd2. So that's it. If anybody else experiments with this, I'd love to get your input. I know that it seemed like you can't actually upgrade to the release candidate, the 3.1, directly. So you can't go from 2.3 to 3.1. You have to go 2.3 to 3.0 and then to 3.1. It looks like. And I'd have to confirm that, but Lucky tried that and it didn't work. So that's it. I'm not sharing the screen anymore.
Cool. Oh.
Did you try this on more than 3 nodes, just out of curiosity? I was wondering if you set up like a test.
It was it was 3 schedulable nodes, but 6 total nodes.
Okay. Also, we owe you guys the results of our upgrade testing, but we were not able to get to it this week. But that's what Chuck is doing right now. That's why he's not here.
Oh, cool.
That's great. Super helpful. All right, and moving right along. Review the upgrades the manual way, Doc.
Yeah, I was going to suggest I dropped a couple of bugs into the top of this document. Do we want to?
Okay.
And since last time we had I'm always happy to review docs, but I had an interesting discussion about what we would flag and why.
Uh-huh.
So I literally was picking of the several hundred pages of issues filed. I scanned and picked up 4. And so they all felt like operational issues to me, but I think it would be interesting to discuss if these are the ones we want to flag or how we would flag them. So I put the links at the top.
Do you want to go over those now? You can share your screen and we can just talk over what it was that you saw that.
They're just in the doc, so if you scroll to the top of the notes, you'll see it. The first one was make deleted objects available from API for some time. So this was sort of saying, hey, when people delete objects out of the API, they're gone. And that struck me as a pretty realistic operational problem. You know, and it's also a compliance and monitoring issue.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, because otherwise you're hunting in the logs to find out that something was deleted when. Is this the type of issue that we would want from an operational perspective to flag and then highlight and say, hey, this is actually something that we care about?
So this is definitely in the ballpark. So this, again, points out that we have two different flavors of issue here, right? One is something that would be an enhancement to an existing cluster to help add more audit stuff. But there's also the other class of problems, which is, wow, so if you see this error in your cluster, that means that you've got this defect that's basically rendering your cluster in or causing, you know, pods to disappear or something like that. Those are sort of the two flavors of issues that I see. So to me, there's like cluster ops enhancement, cluster ops advisory. Like those are the two.
And to me, this is almost a third. And there's another one like this in this list. Actually, it's probably a couple of them. They're ones that make operating a cluster harder.
Right.
Almost like operational debt.
So usability issues.
Yeah, or operability issues. Yeah.
Operability. Yeah. Okay. So
from that perspective, we can add a column to the right and say, almost say type. In this case, this is an operability and potentially a compliance.
So operability, advisory, and enhancement, I think would be the three.
So we're saying operability, enhancement. What was the middle one? Advisory?
Advisory.
And enhancement.
Yeah. So essentially we need like almost like what's the security rating that they use that's CVS or it's been so long since I've messed with that stuff. Essentially the rating.
CVEs.
CVE, that's it. Yeah. 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 So
is there a difference between operability and enhancements?
To me, operability runs into something is not optimal but works, or it's you know, it's like you're driving down the road and there's an unexpected speed bump, versus an enhancement is how do we remove the speed bump? And advisory is the road is washed out ahead.
Right. Okay. So in this case, making deleted objects available is actually in the enhancement camp.
I would say so, yeah.
Right. So, okay. So, and then in enhancement, you would include compliance audit.
Yeah, I would say so, because it does function as is. It's just not optimal from a compliance/audit perspective.
Right. So the next bug would be, to me, is a classic operability bug. Right. The errors are cryptic.
Yep. That is absolutely that. Yeah, you might not be able to actually diagnose what's wrong based on the output of that command.
Right.
And I'd say the next one's an enhancement.
This one, from my perspective, that ends up being an operability problem. Although I agree with you, yeah.
Yeah, you're right, because maybe some of these things fall into both.
Yeah.
Because if you're depending on that output to parse it to actually have instructive continuous integration or continuous deployment on the cluster itself, that could be a problem.
Well, what this does is it creates fragile scripts, right? So, because what happens is if you're not parsing out to JSON, then you're actually parsing tab delimited files, and somebody adds a field, you're borked.
Yep.
Never happened to me ever.
Never.
And, so I'm actually surprised that that's not already a standard, but
yeah, there's a lot of things that'll be nice to have that are lingering. We need to, and so some of these things are going to be, how do we mobilize development effort around these too?
Right. And so what we can actually do is have different subs on these.
I think your headset battery might be on its way out, FYI. So we fix static pods. Nope, nothing. Oh, I can hear you now.
Now I can hear you.
All right.
So, and I was adding severities.
Yes.
We'd have to classify them, but just from a starting point. So in evicting static pods, this one is I thought this was a really interesting story in general, because the pattern that we're seeing with self-hosted and static manifest means that every node in the system becomes a kubelet and is actually in the scheduler. And so when that happens, you end up with this problem where, oops, did I lose y'all?
No, we're here listening.
Holding very still. Everybody's got to keep moving. So what would happen is if this bug specifically was related to the idea that if you have daemon sets and operational containers running on your pod that you're depending on, that becomes an operational problem, because you could potentially bust your whole operational infrastructure by evicting the wrong pods or doing it in the wrong way. So this to me is actually advisory.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's probably a Sev 2, but because if you're depending on that pattern and all of a sudden that you start, there's unclean evictions or people they're trying to evict management services that you depend on and aren't dynamically scheduled, which is the definition here of static pods, then you could be in a world of hurt really fast.
Yeah.
Is static pod like a new thing, or is it just a pod, like a pod that somebody created like a one-time thing?
It's a static manifest or a daemon set. It was my understanding when I read this bug.
I need to read it to understand fully.
But the deployment pattern that we're seeing, not just for Kubernetes, but for all the adjacencies, involve basically using static manifests to deploy things into a Kubernetes cluster. So you just make 100% of the nodes are Kubernetes. The control plane is marked unschedulable, and then you start spinning up static pods on that. And in some cases, if you want a service to appear on every node, like I'm doing some load balancer stuff, it has this pattern. They're like, oh yeah, we just spin up a static container on every node in your Kubernetes cluster.
So these are things, correct me if I'm wrong, but if there's a specific directory on the host that the kubelet looks for, that it's how you start the API basically, and how it knows that the API is affiliated with the server. But essentially you can put things in that directory, and kubelet will spin them up.
Right.
I can't remember what the directory is though.
Yeah, but it's the static manifest pattern.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing people just starting things in Docker with systemd next door. Right, we're going to have to fix this stuff. It's not going to stand like that for very long. But,
yeah.
Um,
Definitely want to read that through and see what people are talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing the same pattern, where we do manifest and static pods and things like that to bring up like almost exactly what you're doing.
We've been adopting some of the cargo. Not adopting. We've been using the cargo. We're migrating to using the cargo Ansible stuff, and it's all static manifest.
Interesting. I'd love to see some of the patterns out in the wild on this stuff.
I'll see if I can get Greg into the meeting next week, because he spent a lot of time playing with it. And we spent a couple hours yesterday talking about exactly this. Because what we're seeing is people are saying, "Oh, I'm just going to spin up a static manifest and drop stuff into a Kubernetes cluster."
That seems so weird.
Sorry?
But I guess it makes sense, right? I mean, there's certain patterns where that just is more.
Yeah. Sometimes it's because they're not. They have to deal with local disk storage. Sometimes they care about the IP of the system, and they need to be in. They have to be an administrative container, so they can't. Right? They're just not mobile. So they're either forced to peg a container using tags.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a relatively advanced feature, or they need to use static manifest, and they generally use static manifest.
Huh. It seems really simple, though, to pin a workload to node, because all you have to do is set the node label and then set the
Node labels are relatively new,
and
they're not consistently applied. So actually, that might be this might be a really interesting thing for this group to take on, is do we need to talk about some labeling standards? I'll add that for a future agenda. That would be a really cool.
Yeah, go for it.
Boy, I actually do people are there any standards for labels? Sorry, now I'm busy working on.
I know the installer that I use sets a bunch of labels, and that's what we use.
Okay.
Like stuff like instance type and things like that.
And then there's annotations as well.
I'm just copying the notes over. Sorry, getting distracted. All right, so that was helpful to me. I feel like that was good. If somebody wants to try and pull a couple more bugs, we can keep going through and testing, and that'll help inform what we ask for with the cluster ops flag, right?
Yeah.
My assumption is cluster ops flags are advisory. We're using that on the advisory side, and then we would create issues. I don't know. I mean, it makes sense to me to flag cluster ops issues on the enhancement and operability side also.
Well, if we feel like we can contribute some horsepower to getting those fixed, I think that's absolutely correct. Question is, do we have those capabilities, the skill sets in order to do that, in the time? Or are they just going to be derelict labels that aren't going to really be useful? To me, the one thing I know we can do is right off the bat is advisories are usable without having input into it. It accomplishes its task by being present, versus invoking somebody to look at it in the hopes that they'll fix it or enhance it or change it.
Right.
It's just trying to get traction on what is the thing we can do with what we have available right now.
Definitely the advisory flag is the thing we can do. So I would suggest that we take the current cluster ops and turn it into the advisory flag, and then if we want enhancements, we can add cluster ops into the title, or we could just throw in a comment that says cluster. We're tracking it from a cluster ops perspective, and then so I would think that for the enhancements, we could actually start just building a list of defects that we think are important, issues that we think are important.
Yep, that's a great idea.
And then use the flag for advisory.
Yeah, and that also, that'll distribute the load too, right? So if people know that we're going through and parsing these, and as the voice of the operator in the field, that we think this is important, that may actually add some weight to getting some of these things fixed or changed or whatnot.
Right. So we could. I'm reluctant to set it up as yet another page or spreadsheet, but so let's keep collecting them here, and then we'll type them, and then we can move them to a spreadsheet.
Okay.
Or something like that.
Yeah, and many hands will make light work, and right now we're not as many hands as we need. So,
right. I do think that every time we do this exercise, we're going to have conversations like we just had, where it's we share some operational lore, and something good comes out of it. So, yeah, this is bring your bugs to work day.
Cool. Well, I think we've actually accomplished save for document review, which I don't necessarily feel attached to. I think we've met our agenda and got some really good stuff covered here.
We do need to sit down and work on the architecture doc and this Kubernetes upgrade pattern.
So I'm not actually going to be here next week because we're doing a DAS offsite. So I got to go to Denver and do that. But do we want to schedule a specific meeting day where we do half of the meeting as, we go through our advisory stuff, and then we have the rest of the meeting dedicated to a doc hack if you want to stick around? Does that work?
I would love that. I'm traveling most of next week too, so
bummer.
Well, I'm hoping to be able to be in the meeting. You and I are different coasts then.
Yeah.
So if you're up for it, we could do like a Friday afternoon hack. Are people available on the 20th?
Let me take a look. I'm free as far as I can tell on the 20th, mostly.
So what I would suggest we do is let's schedule. I'll actually do. I was going to suggest, if this is easy for me, I have it as 2 to 5. Let's not do 2 to 2. Let's do 2 hours of a doc hack.
Okay.
That's Central Time, so it would be, we can do 2 to 6. 2 to 6. Yeah, 2 to 6 for you. I've got a call a little bit earlier. We could do the morning instead of the afternoon.
I think afternoon's okay. I don't mind it switching a little bit in the evening. So
yeah, 2 to 4 would be 2 to 5. It would be 3 to 5 your time, or 11 to 2 Central or Pacific. So
yeah, let's do that. And so, what do we want to do about the meeting next week, since we're both going to be traveling potentially?
I think I can do it. I'll wave off if I can't.
Okay, sounds good.
I might be in a more noisy spot, but.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to have to do the community meeting from the airport, so that'll be interesting. All right, everybody, thank you so much for showing up. Thank you for participating, and I really hope to see you all not next week, the week after. So.
Right on. Yeah, nice meeting you guys.
All right, great.
I'll see you in the Slack.
Yep. Bye.